What's up, Fin Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Finstock. Let's talk about an article I ran into about 3 or 4 days ago. The title of the article is "Dolphins Paying the Price for 2024 Spending Spree." It's by Alan Poupart, which I hope one day will be on Finstock, and we can chop it up on Finstock and hopefully make them regular in the future. But let me go ahead. He writes for SI, as you guys know, for Sports Illustrated. Let me go ahead and read to you the article. This article caught my eye, and I kind of agree with it. The decision by the Miami Dolphins owner Stephen Ross to basically run it back in 2025 with GM Chris Greer and head coach Mike McDaniel seemed like a very quick decision in light of his media statement coming the night of the regular season finale. In reality, the decision probably was made last summer when Ross was busy signing checks on a new contract not only for McDaniel but for a core group of players: Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Waddle, Jalen Ramsey, and Tyreek Hill. One NFL season later, the summer of the spending isn't looking very good. What Ross and the Dolphins got in the first year of those millions and millions of dollars handed out and committed in the form of contract extensions and restructured deals was the team's first losing season since 2019 in a nasty cap situation that made retooling the roster for a return to the postseason pretty tricky. And the likelihood now is that Ramsey won't play a second season with the Dolphins after signing his new deal, and the same might apply for Hill, who has continued to give the organization indigestion by making headlines of the wrong kind. Tua gets the big deal. Of course, the biggest contract decision that the Dolphins made last summer was giving quarterback Tua Tagovailoa a 4-year extension instead of having him play on his 5th-year option. The Dolphins almost backed themselves into a corner of Tua or else by their public comments and their roster construction. So it seemed a given all along they would give him his big money extension, particularly after he conducted a sit-in at the opening of training camp. But instead of getting validation for their decision after giving Tua an extension that potentially could be worth as much as $212 million over the next 4 years, we got more of the same question marks we had before regarding, first and foremost, his durability. He wound up missing a career-high 6 games because of another concussion and, perhaps even more troubling, a hip injury, along with his ability to raise his game and elevate the team against high-end opponents toward the end of the season. The Dolphins did get an average, and the Dolphins did get an advantage with the salary cap with the extension last year because Tagovailoa's cap number went from $23 million in the 5th-year option to $9 million, but the cap number jumps to $39 million in 2025, which is why the Dolphins find themselves some $12 million over the cap at this time. And by being on the roster on the 3rd day of the league year this offseason, Tua now has $54 million guaranteed for the 2026 season, and his cap number is $39 million. And those both are pretty high figures if the Dolphins are going to be in rebuilding mode. Of course, the Dolphins have had their option of restructuring his contract to bring down the number, but that also would mean adding more cap obligation in the future and being tied to him longer, which is fine if the Dolphins are making a deep playoff run. Though we're still waiting for those. And the big question that needs to be asked is what kind of contract Tagovailoa would have gotten this offseason had the Dolphins not budged last year and he had become a free agent. Well, go ahead and suggest it would look more like a 3-year, $100 million contract. Baker Mayfield signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's what Tagovailoa ended up getting because, well, the market is the market. Tyreek Ramsey and the unneeded new deals. But even more troubling were the new contracts given to Hill and Ramsey. The Dolphins already had redone Ramsey's contract after they acquired him in the trade from the Los Angeles Rams in 2023. He had 3 years left on his deal, but an extension was done anyway to make him the NFL highest paid corner after Patrick Surtain III had moved to the top. It was kind of the same situation with Hill because the Dolphins didn't have to do anything with his contract because he still had 3 years left on his contract. A bet with no guaranteed money beyond 2024. This was the case for the Dolphins, rewarding a player for a job well done the previous 2 seasons, but probably not a wise business decision. McDaniel also had 2 years left on his contract before he signed his extension, and it's not the norm for an organization to re-up their head coach in those situations. Again, this was a case of Ross and the Dolphins rewarding 2 folks for a job well done, except that a year later, neither McDaniel nor Ramsey look as good as they did after the 2023 season. All it took was 1 year. The biggest gripe from the end is the Dolphins handling the contracts last summer like the team needed to reward its key components, which is fine. It comes after a championship or at least a deep run in the playoffs. But this remains a franchise without a playoff victory since December 30th, 2000. Was there really a crying need to be so generous with big money contracts? The answer seems pretty obvious right now. I tend to agree with Alan Poupart of Sports Illustrated, and he writes for the Dolphins. Those contracts were given too fast. The big name players like Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Ramsey, and Jalen Waddle have not delivered at least a deep playoff run. We have not have not won one playoff game since December 30th, 2000. Again, this goes back to the question that I posed in one of the videos that will be coming out soon on Finstock. Is Stephen Ross the problem in terms of culture for the Miami Dolphins? My answer to that is also yes. I know he wanted the team to win badly, but he overspends. I know they try to help Tua with his limitations because Tua, again, should have not been a top 5 quarterback. if he needs too many weapons around him and too many things around him. A top five quarterback should elevate the team. And like Mr. Poupard said, Tua is not elevating the team, guys. And overspending, again, proves to be the wrong decision. You build a team from inside out through the draft. You get some key players in free agency. And that's how you build a team, guys. Leave me your thoughts down below. What you think, is Stephen Ross part of the problem with the culture in this team? Does Stephen Ross overspend, or does he just let top management make the decisions and he writes blank checks? Let me know what you think, and we'll talk to you soon. And remember, stay positive, stay on your grind, and fizz up all the time. Talk to you soon. Peace.